Hello, and welcome to this Automation World video podcast sponsored by Schneider Electric about how digitization affects multi-site MES use and the industry's aging workforce issue. I'm David Greenfield, Director of Content at Automation World, and joining me for this discussion is Keith Chambers, Director of Operations and Execution Software at Schneider Electric. Now, in our discussion today, we're going to explore how industry trends are changing the way companies evaluate and use software technology. And in light of these changes, what kind of value should be expected from MES and/or MOM systems specifically? And just to clarify, MES stands for Manufacturing Execution System, and MOM stands for Manufacturing Operations Management. So Keith, let's start with the digitization trend, that being the trend to digitize and capture production data for use across the enterprise to optimize business operations as a whole. How do you see this trend evolving, and how is it affecting industry today?
Digitization of processes within the plant, within operations, is really having a big effect on the manufacturing industry. So one of the problems we've been talking about for many years has been kind of the aging of the workforce that's going on, and that has two dimensions. So senior long-term employees, operators at plants have been aging out, retiring, if you will. They're being replaced, obviously, with the younger generation. That younger generation aren't staying around for as long as the previous generations have. So there's this aging of the workforce, and as that workforce retires out, businesses are losing a tremendous amount of tribal knowledge about how processes should be executed, how are things to be done. By digitizing those processes, we're able to capture that knowledge into the system, into the applications, and then play it back, making it a much more effective execution of those processes for the business. Also, once we digitize something, it lets us add some real governance to it. So for processes related to quality, performance, execution, we're actually able to look at what those processes are, describe them accurately, document them, and then control them and monitor to what degree they're used. So, for instance, alarm escalations. By digitizing the alarm escalation process, hey, I've got an alarm, now I need to notify my supervisor or perhaps a shift engineer. By digitizing those processes, we can look at what are those escalation times, how many alarms have to be escalated, and what was the close and resolution rate on those alarms. So a lot of real benefits come to the plant and the operators by the digitization.
Now, given your experience in the industry, Keith, how have you seen the landscape for operations management systems change over the years, and how has that affected how you develop and deliver software products?
Yes, so there's been really two big changes that are happening in the landscape. So firstly, within the plant, we're seeing the breakdown of a lot of silos. Traditionally, plants had operations, they had maintenance, they had quality people. Now those silos are starting to break down, and businesses are looking for a much more collaborative solution across those silos. We're also seeing a major trend in the industry from a single site, single point solution that's driven by plant needs to multi-site enterprise solutions that are really more driven by the business need. And those two things colliding is what's kind of driving the industry today. That has a big effect on how we deliver projects into those solutions. So when you look at delivering a multi-site enterprise MES system, a few of the things that are different. So firstly, they're typically multi-region global things. So you have localization, you have regional issues, you have support issues. When you put an MES system into a single plant, you can support it from a local resource that knows that plant and works with it. You have to recreate that model when you do a global program. That's the second thing that we've really changed in how we deliver these systems into our customers' plants, is we manage them as a global program. We have a team of specialized global program managers who look at not just an individual project, but the overall program and how does that all come together and deliver value, again, not just to one site, but across multiple sites. So one of the constructs that we use to help us manage this is the COE concept, Center of Excellence. So this is about putting a team together that's based around the global program who can develop the solution, not just for one plant, but for multiple plants, and then really own the life cycle of that particular solution. So as we're delivering new rollouts into one plant, we're also maintaining and supporting and delivering upgrades maybe into other plants. The other aspect of delivering multi-site MES is there's tremendous variability still between the plants, particularly if you go in between regions, between China, Europe, North America, how those plants operate. The model of delivering a customized solution to each plant is not viable once you get into a multi-site environment. So that's why we take a process-based approach where we go in and we map the overall processes that are being run within those plants, and then we can drive those out directly through our technology.
Now, looking at this from the perspective of an industrial operation, how has their landscape changed in light of their experience with various types of manufacturing operations software deployments?
Yeah, if you go back a few years and you look at what happened in the manufacturing industry, there was a big wave of ERP deployments, and that first wave that came through really struggled to deliver value to the businesses that they sold into. And the reason for that was that they really had to stop when they got to the plants. ERP systems were financial in nature, weren't really well tuned to the real-time nature of a plant. But then there was a kind of a second wave of ERP where businesses really took advantage of that global platform that they had deployed to undergo business transformation, where they did a whole series of process mappings and refinements, optimizations to really give themselves the agility and the flexibility that they needed to be responsive to their markets. But again, that second wave of kind of business transformation that came in also stopped at the gates of the plant. So manufacturing operations transformation is really about taking the increasing need within a plant for operational improvements and for quality safeguarding that has always existed in a plant, but really marrying it up to these business transformation efforts that are going on in the business. In a sense, completing those efforts and bringing them into the plant, bridging that gap between business systems and the manufacturing plant floor. So over the years, there's been a maturing need for MES within the plants. Plants have needed to improve their operations, productivity, visibility, reduce their waste, improve their and safeguard the quality output. So there's been pressure inside the plant, a maturing need for MES. Outside of the plant, businesses have been very proactive, undergoing business transformation to give themselves the responsiveness, the flexibility, the agility that they need in their markets. So manufacturing operations transformation is really where those two things meet. Completing the business transformation within the plants, bridging that gap from the business view of the world to the plant-centric view of the world.
So considering all these changes that have taken place, what value should end users be looking for from multi-site MES, MOM software now?
Yeah, I like to think of the value of these systems as being on a maturity curve. When we first started this many years ago, we talked about MES, and MES has some fairly well-known value propositions around operational improvements. So productivity, improved yields, less waste, visibility into manufacturing. Those were all fairly well identified and served by MES. But as I talked about earlier, the silos within the plant between operations, quality, and maintenance came down, and really the industry matured into manufacturing operations management, which took a much broader view of all of the operations that were occurring in the plant. So again, value propositions there that added to the MES value propositions were quality safeguarding, reduced cost of conformance, reduced cost of non-conformance. So these value propositions have always existed within the plant. Manufacturing operations transformation gives access to a new set of value propositions that you simply can't get in a single site. So firstly, reduce total cost of ownership. So when you put 5 systems into 5 plants, if you do it in a coordinated fashion as a global program, as a transformation program, you can get significant cost reductions in the total cost of ownership for the customer. Reductions of the order of around 30% per plant. Significant savings by coordinating a global program. But the value doesn't end there. Once you have a standardized system across a number of plants, then you can start to get meaningful metrics, KPIs out of those plants that allow comparisons. So OEE is a great example of a simple metric. To be able to look at OEE on a particular line in one plant and know that number, what that number means in the context of OEE from a different line in a different plant, very important to help businesses start to manage and make decisions about how they should be manufacturing the products that they want to bring to market. Other value propositions that we see with an operations transformation program is a consistent approach to regulatory compliance, whether that be environmental, health, safety, FDA, food, whatever those regulations are. To apply a standardized approach to regulatory compliance across the business can significantly reduce the regulatory exposure and risk that our customers have. So one of the big benefits of multi-site MES transformation programs, I talked before about a process-based approach. So when you take a process-based approach and you take it across multiple plants, you can really start to leverage learnings from one plant to the other. The notion of global best practices. This is my best-in-class plant for this particular product, for this particular style of manufacturing. So let me take those processes and re-implement them into my other plants to get that learning, like I said, to leverage that global best practice across the system.
So what types of organizations stand to benefit most from multi-site MES MOM use? Is it specific to a particular type of vertical industry or a certain size of company?
Yeah, so at first glance, you would look at this and say, yeah, this is only for the big guys, the tier ones, but it's really not. We've been able to deliver benefits to customers that have as few as 5, 6 sites. So anywhere where there's really some value to be had along the lines that I just talked about, global best practices, consistent approach to regulatory compliance, reducing the cost of ownership, those are available really to anyone. I also want to stress that the value proposition for manufacturing operations transformation is really twofold. It comes from above for the business, that's the multi-site aspect, but it's also providing all those value propositions that the manufacturing operations management traditionally brings within a plant. So it really is for everyone. Some industries are a lot more mature in their adoption of this model. So for instance, in the life sciences, they've been doing multi-site MES deployments, programs for many, many years. We're seeing really a lot of activity now in specialty chemical, food and beverage as these manufacturers complete their business transformations and look to get those benefits out of their plants, but really it can be applied very broadly across the industry. So when it comes to manufacturing operations transformation, it sounds like it's only meant for the big guys in the industries, and that's really not the case. Large regional players, really any manufacturer that has 3 or 4 sites can get some of these benefits that we talked about out of these types of systems. And it's really not specific to any particular industry, whether it be food and beverage, discrete manufacturing, life sciences, or specialty chemical. There's value there for everyone.
Well, thank you, Keith, and thank you for joining us. For more information, visit the website shown here.